Hey guys, welcome back. In this week's video I want to talk about an important topic that's been on my mind. And I was actually reminded of this topic last night. Late in the evening I was on the forums and I realized there was a problem with the Athearn version of the Wabash SD70ACE, the Norfolk Southern Heritage unit. I had seen a forum post about the actual unit having a curved shape on its nose versus the Athearn unit, which just had a slight V pattern, and that appears to be a factory mistake from Athearn. Now, am I going to defend Athearn on this? No. You know, a lot of you folks, they think I'm really strong on Athearn, and I am. They've done a great job, but in this case they made a mistake. Now, where that mistake lies, I don't know. I'm not very anal retentive that I care about a slight mistake like this. I've seen all kinds of comments on the forums that talk about, well, you know, now you're going to have to go and get this repainted, or I'm going to have to wait, or I'm not buying that model because it's got that problem. Well guys, the only other option, in my opinion, is overland models. So if you want to pay 5 times what you'd pay for a plastic model, go right ahead, because Bachmann's not cutting it, MTH isn't really cutting it on the Heritage units, and Overland's the only other choice for those SD70ACEs, as Intermountain doesn't make them. So if you want to go fork out the grand for the Overland Models unit, by all means I would contact them as soon as possible for that Wabash unit. Otherwise, suck it up. I mean, the mistakes are going to happen. Everything in this hobby is human, has humans behind it, and we're going to get to that here in the point of this video, which is modelers versus manufacturers. I've seen just an amount of griping that I've never seen before in any other hobby. When I first entered this hobby back in 2009, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a great way to relax. I'll get something set up and I'll run down here and I'll work on scenery and work on bench work and all the different aspects of modeling, and it'll be relaxing. But what I noticed as modeling goes by and my time goes by in HO scale modeling is that it's so uptight about everything. You have people that want to model things directly like the prototype. That's great. And you have manufacturers that want to do that too. But it doesn't happen sometimes. So my first point in modelers versus manufacturers is I'm going to speak to the manufacturers and tell them what I think they're doing wrong. And then I'm going to speak to the modelers and say what they're doing wrong. For manufacturers, the first thing you're doing wrong is don't make the modeler feel like they're stupid, or don't take the modeler for granted and think they're stupid. I was told by a manufacturer, I will leave unnamed, that their quality was up there with Athearn's and Overland's, that their quality was just as good, and they told me this face to face at a train show with a straight face. And I'm like, are you serious? Do you really think I'm stupid? Manufacturers need to be more honest with the modelers. That's one downfall of manufacturers. Don't look me in my eye and tell me something that's not true, and you know it's not true. And a manufacturer, I'm not going to mention who, said that to me. Told me that it was up their model of the Norfolk Southern Heritage SD70ACE was just as good as Athearn's and Overland's. Come on guys. I've only been in modeling 3 years. I know vague details of the prototype, and even I know that manufacturer couldn't hang with some of the more detailed models. Another thing manufacturers make mistakes of doing is customer service drops. You know, there's tons of emails and tons of Facebook messages, and they need to be more customer service oriented. Not just MTH like I've mentioned before, but other model manufacturers have really set the bar kind of low in that area. They haven't really covered customer service the way it should be covered. You've got a warranty, honor it, things like that. And that's really the only problems I have with manufacturers. And I'll tell you why, because I put a lot of it on the modeler. One thing the modeler does wrong is they want the prices low, but they want the quality really high. That's not going to happen very well. Some companies have orchestrated it better than others. But you're not going to get a high quality product with a low price. I mean, it just doesn't happen anywhere else in business. You know, for example, if you buy a 1995 Kia for $2,500 and you buy a 2013 Acura RL, or whatever it's called now, RLX, which one do you think is going to have more quality? You're paying for that quality. So when modelers demand that the prices be low, they force their hands for the manufacturers to make overseas manufacturing moves. They have to produce these models overseas for the most part. I've seen estimates anywhere in between 2 and 3 times the cost if they're produced in the United States. And trust me, as an American military member, I'm proud of the USA, but I will tell you that I am not so sure that if the products were made in the USA, they would be any better. Nothing against American workers, but the folks over there in Asia have like this work ethic where they're used to that environment. There's not a lot of American workers that are used to the environment of putting on little pieces on models and assembling models all the time. There would be some very rough patches if it came to the US, and it would cost several times more, 2 to 3 times more on my estimates. So don't expect the manufacturers to do these things and then expect the prices to be low, just like we saw with the Wabash unit. Another point I want to make, what modelers make a mistake of, is they take the Wabash unit, like for an example, and they say, oh, this should have been perfect. Well, there are not machines behind these products. They use CAD and things, some sort of graphics program to get everything drawn up, but things slip through the cracks, especially on the overseas marketing end. Athearn can do everything right. I mean, look at all the research they did and all the little things they got right, road-specific details, and then something gets lost in translation when it's sent overseas to do the drawings, and boom, something like that happens, and then it's the end of the world. So keep in mind that there's human beings behind every step of this process. You've got human beings behind the camera taking the first pictures of the prototype, human beings putting the things into the computer to draw up the schematics of what this model is going to be, human beings at the factory end of things, interpreting all that and getting it set into their systems and everything for factory paint jobs. And then you've got human beings assembling the models, putting glue on, things like that. Hand-assembled models. A lot of people don't realize that these models are hand-assembled, so you get glue spots and stuff like that. So my third point, wrapping up, is just, for the modelers, quit being so anal retentive. Fix things yourself if you want to call yourself a modeler, okay? And consider what's behind this whole process. No company is perfect. People are spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on cars, even more, and aren't getting a perfect product. I just dropped 45 grand on my new SUV, and there's already an issue with the tire pressure monitoring system, and it's a very well-known brand. I'll just put it that way. I don't want to throw that brand under the bus either, but it's a very well-known for its reliability brand. So just keep those things in mind. Another thing modelers should consider is don't give one company a pass because they're a company that maybe is used to not making good quality, and then hit another company hard because they have consistently had good quality. A good example of this is Overland models versus, let's say, Bachmann. We all know when we get a Bachmann item, it's not going to be that quality. And we know that because we pay a lower price. Bachmann SD70 ACEs and ES44 ACs are going to be around $140 or $150. Now, Overland, on the other hand, has the same models of the SD70 ACE and ES44 AC, but they're in brass. And because they're in brass and that they're used to providing a high level of detail, they have to be immune from mistakes. That's not the case. Again, people are behind the product. So you're going to have mistakes there as well. Now, why are you giving Bachmann the pass? Because they're cheap and they're used to making crappy products, versus Overland not getting a pass ever. Or let's make it a little more tight as far as finances go, because I know Overland's a lot more expensive than Bachmann. Let's go Bachmann and Athearn. Bachmann's been around probably just as long as Athearn, roughly. I'm not going to pull up actual dates or anything. But because their products are slightly cheaper, and I mean slightly because I picked up the Athearn SD70 ACE Norfolk Southern Heritage units for $218, and Bachmann's going to be running like 160. I'm guessing about 160. So $58 more. But Athearn is held to this ridiculously high standard of no mistakes, where Bachmann's like, well, it's Bachmann. Even I say it, well, it's Bachmann, you know, we're used to that. No, if you're going to hold people accountable, hold everybody accountable. Don't just shoot at the guy that's up at the company that's sitting up at the top right now as far as detail and quality. Or even MTH. Let's take MTH in consideration. I'll give MTH one pass. They've been in the HO scale industry for 6-7 years, not very long. But they get passes all the time when their products are the same price as Athearn's from the same people, because, well, they pull really well, or, well, they're, you know, durable, things like that. So what does it really come down to? Why do we have all this conflict? Because everybody has different standards, okay? And that's my last point for the modeler. Everybody has different priorities. You know, a guy that's got a 150 unit train and for some reason wants to pull that with 1 or 2 locomotives, he's probably going to want to go with MTH because of pulling power if he doesn't care about detail. Me, I might want to go with detail over pulling power and durability because I don't have to worry about the models falling out of anywhere or falling off my layout. Somebody else may want durability because they've got some really close curves on their layout. We're all different. We all have different desires, different requests within these locomotives. You got the LED folks and the incandescent folks. You got the tsunami folks and the QSI folks and the lock sound folks, all in these little camps. And I have no problem with everybody's opinion, because guess what? I've got opinions. That's all you've been hearing on this channel since I began. But my problem is when you're so strongly opinionated that you have to drag somebody into it and force them into your camp. So let's say I'm pro MTH and I just spend all my time, blah, blah, blah. MTH is the greatest. Why don't you guys understand that? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. Like what you want to like, modelers. Model what you want to model and let people vote with their wallet. Because guess what? As you can see, this thing is dehydrated, starved. It could be on a commercial with Sally Struthers narrating because of all the money I've spent on models this year. But the fact is, this is your voting power. Your wallet is your voting power. You cast your vote for that product by purchasing the product or pre-ordering the product. So no matter what you do, that's your ultimate power, is in your pocket. And if a lot of people, you know, a lot of people are concerned about, oh, well, people don't get my point. Well, guess what? If enough people get your point, then there won't be enough pre-orders to fulfill certain products. Or there will not be enough sales, and you'll start seeing the things plummet on eBay for 100 and 125 bucks a piece. But I've yet to see that with MTH or Athearn or Overland, where things are just 75% off sale on eBay because people are fed up with the models. I mean, I've seen it with a couple companies, mostly like Tyco because they're so old, but things are not always what you think. You know, I am open-minded to say, okay, my personal preference for this SD70 ACE is Athearn. But I can understand the MTH guy, and I can understand the Overland guy, and I try to learn. And I think all modelers should try to learn from each other. Don't, you know, push your ideas really hard. Just say, whoa, guy, you know, I understand you like Athearn, but if I drop my Athearn, pieces are going to fly everywhere, and I want something that if I drop, it's going to stay in one piece. Okay, fine. That's your prerogative. But don't force feed that on other people. So, I mean, it's just crazy. I did not expect this hobby to be as insane as it is, with the strong opinions of people and how they force that on other people and how they constantly down other people. I was thinking vacation, and this is more like job to be in this hobby sometimes. Now, I am going to actually withdraw and not really be on the forums much late into December and mid into January, and I'm going to withdraw from Facebook and not be on there much because it's overwhelming to think about. You know, I'm sitting here in between two fighting entities, the customer and the manufacturer. And it is not my job. I don't get paid by any manufacturer to defend them. But I've been to some manufacturers and I've talked to some manufacturers and I've asked them the questions Instead of walking up to them at a train show and saying, "This sucks, this is horrible," I say, "Hey, why is this like this? You know, why didn't you do this way, or what happened here, what went wrong?" Chances are they're going to tell you. Their secrets are not that in depth that they can't tell you what went wrong. They'll say, "Well, James, such and such happened. We sent these photos over to the factory and it got misunderstood, and then we had so many prototypes to look at on the first, or so many prototypes to look at, so many models to look at on the pre-production samples that we missed a curve," or something like that. That's an example of what I would expect to hear from Athearn. So just keep in mind that these things happen. Don't let them work you up too much, modelers, because it's going to drive you insane. My last example of expecting quality is with Overland. As most of you guys know, I had ordered the Overland Boy Scout unit, number 2010, the ES44AC. And at the time I wouldn't divulge how much I spent on it. And at this time I will not divulge how much I spent on it. But it was a ridiculous amount. It was more than $2,000. And when I got that Boy Scout unit in, as I showed you on that video, there were 10 made. 10 in the whole world. 10 Overland units made for Boy Scout unit. And I put the unit around, I had some running videos of the unit, and I got a message from a guy saying, "Hey, the 2 on the 2010 on the side of the long hood is the wrong color. It's the same color as the BSA, and it's supposed to be, I think, red or blue. I'd have to look at my model up here, but anyway, it's the wrong color." Now what does that tell you? What would you expect? Some people in this hobby, "Oh my God, I paid $2,000 for a model and it's wrong." Yeah, that went through my head, but it was about this much of that reaction. Why? Because I knew it was going to be fixed. Okay? Overland held up their end of the deal and they fixed that problem. But I also paid $2,000+ for this locomotive. Now with the Athearn units, you're paying $200, and there's way more than 10 made in the world. So are they going to bring them all in and paint them? No. But Overland brought them all in and painted them. So now, are you still mad at the concept? Yes. But my point with giving you this Overland example is not to throw Overland under the bus. They're a great company, great brass products. But to demonstrate to you that no matter how many are in the production run, no matter who's behind it, no matter how much you pay, there's going to be mistakes. Because guess what? Flesh and blood is behind every step of the modeling process. So that's it, guys. I hope I didn't bore you to death with that explanation, but it's very important for you to understand. You know, we've got two warring factions. We've got modelers and manufacturers. And manufacturers misunderstand the modeler on a couple things that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. But a lot of this I weigh towards the modeler misunderstanding the manufacturer. So there are almost every hobby shop I've ever dealt with. If you get a product you're not happy with, you can return it within a certain amount of time, whether it's 7, 14, 30 days, some even longer. Don't like it, return it. Guess what? That vote from your wallet is now null and void, and it's like your vote didn't count because you're withdrawing your vote. You return the product. And then the manufacturer sees that there was a problem. And if there's enough returns, they'll see there's a huge problem. So it's a learning process for modelers. It's a learning process for manufacturers. Don't let it get too out of control. Don't let your emotions get too out of control. We got way too many keyboard warriors out there. You know, state the problem, state what's wrong with it, go for the fix. Whether that's getting an Overland model, getting some custom painter to fix that problem like on the Athearn unit, or whatever. Get things to your content. If that means returning the model, return it. Now, I hope you guys didn't think that this was centered on the Wabash unit, because I've had this video in mind for a while, but it reminded me to do it. The problem is manufacturers and modelers not understanding each other. Okay guys, possibly the second most boring video in my entire series of videos ever, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on my channel.